Hey, I wanted to do a short follow-up on my previous video on the IPA because I realized that that it was not fully complete. I know it was already in 1 hour long video, but the, I think I can give a short follow-up of 10 or 20 minutes, hopefully, which will really give a little more. So the topics I want to cover on this one. First, I'm going to tackle real quick the aspiration because I mentioned it when I was talking about voiceness and such stuff. I said that there was a small h at the end of the p in English, but I didn't say anything more. So it was oversimplified. I want to bring the topic of aspiration, and then we're going to talk a bit of accents and notably the French accent. And the point will be to show you how you transcribe your own sentences in English into the IPA first, and then we're going to tackle once again as shortly as possible the topic of how to use the IPA then for conlanging. So how to pick sounds, things like that. So so first, yeah, so first I'm going to tackle the topic of aspiration real quick. Okay, I should have opened this. Okay, this is not for. Sorry, this. Yeah, okay. Okay, my bad. Okay, this Twitter is already terrible. I have to open internet and then. I'm sorry. Okay. So no, not this. Yeah. By default, my Google is in French. So yeah, aspiration. Okay, I'm just going to read it first. It's the strong burst of breath that accompanies either the release or, in the case of pre-aspiration, the closure of some obstruents. So that does not. One of the reasons why this is not like. Let's go to the APA consonant chart. Yeah, this one. So in this chart, there are three parameters that are considered: the place of articulation, the manner of articulation. So I hope you will understand it now well enough, and the whether or not it's voiced. So you could say aspiration is a kind of fourth parameter. So just to give you an idea, in English, you typically for plosive, you typically have a double distinction: one in voiceness, in voiceness, and one in aspiration. What is very interesting is that in Chinese, in Mandarin Chinese, the distinction will only be that of aspiration, and in French it's the opposite. In French, it will only be a difference of voiceness. Um, so typically um, in French it's going to be pas, ba. I have to. What is difficult is that since I'm speaking in English, I will aspirate a bit my p just because I'm in the context of speaking English. So if I switch to my French, donc là je parle français et donc pas ba, pas ba. These are two different consonants. And so in French we only distinguish them by the voiceness. So it's the your vocal cords that are being vibrating. And in Chinese, it's going to be the opposite. It's going to be only the aspiration. So I struggle to make it because it's difficult for me to aspirate the P without just making an unvoiced, like voiceless aspirated P and a non-aspirated voiced B. So I either do the English version or the French version. I really struggle to make exactly the way it is in Chinese. But in theory, I should say something like pa, pa, something like this, and you should only have the aspiration as a distinction. So yeah, so aspiration, it's kind of breath that you add to your consonant, and it's typically used for plosives. So in English, yeah, you will the police, the T. If I really exaggerate the distinction, the T, um, like you should consider. You if you say that with a French accent, you would rather say something like consider consider, and you would remove that breath that you add to the K. So when I mention this, I don't want to say that the French version would be. So sometimes it will sound like I'm saying that the French version is the normal one. All I want to express is that these are possibilities, and you have to pick your possibilities. So, and in order for you to be able to really choose, you have to understand. You have to understand what you're already doing. For conlanging, typically, you have to understand what you're already doing, and what are the new possibilities. It's not just for conlanging, because it's also true for language learning. So for language learning, it's good to have an idea of the IPA and of the overall sounds. So you should be able to pronounce new sounds, not just like I really don't like it when people use, like, for instance, if they teach French, they will use a American transcription system and rewrite the French sentences in this system, and so they will get an approximation of French. That's just good for, like, if you make an impression of French. But if you really want to speak French, you have to not use this. As soon as possible, you don't use that. I do use my French transcription system sometimes when I teach French. You have to use, if you want to use a phonetic system transcription that would not be the APA, it has to be one which matches the language, the target language. In this case, it makes some sense, because in this case, it will get you used to how letters are paired with the spelling. What was the subject in the sentence? It will get you used to how the spelling matches the pronunciation. So it makes sense in the context of teaching French to use a French adapted transcription system with, for instance, an acute accent will on the E will say it's an A. If you have a grave accent, it's going to show A, and so on and so forth. But in the context of conlanging, there's no real reason to do that. So for conlanging, typically you really want to use the APA. For conlanging, I see no reason to use anything but the APA. And even in the case of learning a language, don't use a transcription system adapted for the source language. At the very least, if you really want to use something else than the APA, use a transcription system which will match the target language, not the source language, the target language, because you want to adapt yourself to the target language. So anyway, I don't know if I explained aspiration that well, but I just want to point out that aspiration is not as important as voiceness, because voiceness, it's really a parameter that distinguishes consonants of all types, while aspiration, it only basically works on plosives. As far as I know, it's you can't aspirate everything, and you typically aspirate these. So even in English, the distinction between the th and the, or th and the, it's only, as far as I know, I think it's really only a voiceness distinction. There's no aspiration distinction. You don't say thought. You don't really aspirate your th. It's only thought or thought. Well, thought doesn't matter, doesn't exist, but you get my point. Think this. The distinction is only one of voiceness, I think. Okay. So let's get to my pains. So what I wrote a sentence here, and my point will be to show how to transcribe my pronunciation. I will pronounce it first. First, I will pronounce it the way I do, and I will transcribe this with the APA. Then we're going to see the transcription for the actual pronunciation in a fairly standard English pronunciation, and we're going to see a bit of how it varies from UK English to US English typically. So for that, you have to browse the Wiktionary or the Cambridge Dictionary, for instance. The Cambridge Dictionary is a good one. And then I'm also going to mention how a French will pronounce it if it were really caricatured accents. And then we are also going to transcribe that. And at the end, we are going to mention a French sentence. So if I pronounce it myself, it's going to be I have been looking for happiness for my whole life until I realized I already have happiness. I just have to use it. Okay, so that's the way I pronounce it. So it's similar to English, but I think there are a few sounds which I don't make perfectly, and I'm going to try and render my actual way of speaking. So the beginning, okay, I don't know if I'm going to transcribe everything because I can't use this because I don't have the IPA in my keyboard, so it's going to be too difficult. So this in the beginning, it's basically something like this. So this is a diphthong. The first sound is a diphthong. When I say I, it's you can either interpret it as this, so a vowel followed by a consonant, I, but I think it's rather a diphthong, I, because the here is not exactly the same as a year, and it's you can debate on whether it's a diphthong or one syllable with a vowel plus a consonant. I don't know if this makes sense. So when you separate sounds in the APA, you put syllables. I mean, you put a dot. So this means next syllable basically. Then it's an H, an A. So I'm not sure. Personally, I think my A's in whatever languages, I think it's always the neutral A. I'm going to get to internet very quickly. Um, Launch. Yes. So I think my A in general tends to be this. I can't be sure, and would need the analysis of a professional phonologist or something. But I think my A's are typically this. Maybe they can vary sometimes based on the context, which syllable and stuff. But by simplification, I'm going to always use this. Oh no. Actually, I'm going to always use this because it's because it's simpler because it's only an A. But just remember that it could be like anyway. So I have been. So this is a long vowel. Oh sorry. By simplification, I'm going to separate all the syllables with the dots. Actually, you can also separate them with spaces, but typically if you want to separate the words or something like this. But I'm going to just make as if it's one block of syllables. I have been. So when I say have, it's a short vowel. But when I say been, it's a long one. If it were a short one, it would be I have been. Been. But it's in this word, it's supposed to be been. I have been. I don't know if I perfectly make it long, but so this is le. When when you pronounce lu, looking, it's u, and u is written with a u like this. You put a dot again. I have been looking. I have been looking. So you do stress a bit looking. I have been looking. So when you stress a syllable, so you need to know the dot, which separates the syllables, and the apostrophe, which indicates which vowel is which syllable is stressed on. Looking. I think there is a small aspiration here. So if there is an aspiration, you put an H as an exponent. Look. Okay, this is a looking for. I pronounce it basically as a French open O, I think. And for the R, I really struggle to pronounce the exact English R, and this will show up even more at times. Like for instance, in this case, I rewatched my video and I realized that just listen to me, attentively, or just you can also, if you want the sound to be even better, you can remember this timeline and you go to it in my previous video, and you will see how I pronounce the words or, like this one. Okay, I almost forgot to change the window. No, not this. Yes. Okay, be careful with how I pronounce the word or. You can either make a unvoiced one or a voiced one. Huh?
or b. T or d. K or g.
Okay, so if you pay attention, you will see that my R, in general, I tend to, I don't really understand the English R, to be honest. And so I do an approximant, but not the English approximant. The English R, it's somewhere like this. Yeah, it's typically this. The one I do is rather something like this. It's an approximant, but of the French R, because the French R is a nuvular one. It's here. So
Ra, un rat.
that's the French R. And what I do is an approximant of this.
Ra, un rat,
Kind of.
ar,
Rat, un rat.
Okay, something like this, basically. I think my R rather matches something like this, and I just struggle to make it better. It's the same with the Spanish R. I really struggle to make it. So in general, my Spanish R it will basically be an L, in fact, which is a bit ridiculous. But I'm doing my best, but I just struggle with it. So I think I'm going to write it like this. For I have been looking for. I wonder if this is actually a diphthong. So in this case, maybe I'm doing a long one. I'm not sure. Ha. So there is clearly a stress syllable here. Happiness. Okay, just to give you an idea. So I'm going to jump on the internet again. I'm just going to mention the sounds which I transcribed here. I think I'm not going to tackle everything. I guess it's going to be just the first row. Oh, sorry, stupid. Okay. Yes. Okay, good. So the H is this, right? Ha. Happiness. So there is the P, which is a bilabial plosive. Okay, right. And as for the vowels, I mentioned the A, and I mentioned the happiness, the A at the end, happiness. I'm not sure if I pronounce something like this or something like this. I think if you check on the dictionary, I think they are going to say that the final E is this one. I think that in English it tends to be this because I think it's somewhere in between E and E. But you can't really argue on that. I don't have a strong opinion. And I think that I pronounce something like this, but maybe I pronounce something like this. I'm not sure exactly. You can't be always exactly sure of what you pronounce exactly. But the point is to have an idea of, at the very least, like if I were to say that my E at the end was something like this, it would be absurd because I'm just not sure of the exact nuance, but I know where to spot it, and I can even check it because I can check if my tongue is rather front or open, sorry, close or open, or front or back. At least you understand how to visualize this, and it's even easier with the consonants because for the consonants it's you know where you pronounce the sounds. It's very easy. You can check where your tongue is. It's very simple to check that. Like if you do bilabial, you know that you do a bilabial. It's if you're moving your tongue, it's not a bilabial. Okay. For my whole life. Whole. So if I pronounce whole, my whole life. I think the whole is something like this. So we're going to not make everything. For my whole life, I think I stress the whole life. I think I stress both of them for my whole life. For my whole life. I think I stress especially the whole. So we're going to just put an apostrophe on the whole. Oh no, sorry, it's not a whole. And then at the end, it's the same diphthong that we saw before. Okay, I don't have enough space. This is a. So this is a diphthong which is a and e. So it makes life. It's the same. It's basically the same vowel as here, the same diphthong as here. I, life, but there was a beginning L and the final F. Whole. So whole, I think I pronounce it. I'm pretty sure I pronounce it somewhere in between. I'm pretty sure I pronounce it. Ah. So the thing is, when you use OBS, you have to like, you can't open a window. Like I don't know how to say it, but how to express that. But basically, sometimes I will just like I will go back to OBS, and if I clicked on the Internet Edge tab, then it's like I closed it or something, like not close, but this like disclose or reduce or something, and it means in this case I cannot find it on OBS, so I have to reopen. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So I think the O I pronounce is this one. So that's what I'm going to transcribe. Clearly, it's clearly rounded. I don't say whole. I really struggled to pronounce these, the unrounded back vowels, but clearly I pronounce a round one. What is not entirely sure it's where. It's clearly a back one, and it's unrounded. The only thing that is not perfectly clear is how much close or open it is. But I think my O is here. So I'm going to. Okay, where are we now? Okay, I have to delete this tab. I think I'm going to delete this one as well. Okay, perfect. So yeah, I'm going to transcribe the O that we found in the internet, which is not O, not O, but somewhere in between. My whole life, I think it's in between. Okay, we're not going to make the end of this. Yeah, by the way, here there is an R once again, and once again it's going to be this. So now we're going to check what the dictionary or Cambridge dictionary. I think we're going to use the dictionary. What it says about how to pronounce this sentence. So it won't be perfect because there's the stress on the words themselves, and then there is the stress that depends on the in the context of the sentence, the whole sentence. And the Cambridge dictionary is not going to be able to transcribe that, or the dictionary, but at least we can have an idea of the IPA for each word individually. So we're going to open again. No, sorry, I have to do this first, and now I can open it. Whew, yeah. So I have been looking. So it's going to be easy. Okay, that's very long. No, not translate. I want the English one. Good. Yeah. So basically, this or this. There are several schools. Clearly, I don't pronounce this. I don't say R. I say I. So yeah, it depends on the accent. You can check for yourself what your accent is for English. But basically, I pronounce this. I have. So just check how it's supposed to be. Okay, so in theory, it's supposed to be an A, which is it's slightly closer than it's here. I really don't know which one I'm making. The A, I really struggle to get a good idea of which A I'm pronouncing. And there is an H, half. So yeah, bien. So bien, it's very simple, straightforward. It's this. What? Okay, I didn't know this.
Bin.
Oh, that's true.
Bin.
So okay, so that's clearly a bin. So you see, there is no double dots because this is a short.
Bin.
If you listen, it's short. But the one I pronounce, I think, is this one, which is the long one.
Bean.
I'm starting to believe that maybe I'm doing something in between. I think maybe I'm doing like I have been. Yeah, I think my bin. I just realized. I think my bin is it's long, but I think it's rather an E. It's not exactly an E. I don't say I have been. Like this is clearly not what I pronounce.
Bean.
I don't say been. I say I have been. I think it's somewhere in between. Maybe I'm doing a diphthong. So if you're doing a diphthong, which so I'm going to delete this again. So as a reminder, when you do a diphthong, you change you do basically a long vowel and you change midway the way you pronounce it. So a diphthong, it can be a very big difference, like I. So in this case, it's the two vowels are very different. Or sometimes it can be just a nuance that you make in your vowel. So in this case, maybe what I do is something like this. It would be a diphthong. Bin, bin. So maybe for instance, I start with an English e, and I end up by making it even closer, and so it could be bean, bean. Maybe that's what I utter. It's really okay if you're not sure exactly what you pronounce, but at least you have an idea of what it means, what your transcriptions mean, basically. Mean, and you can check the way you pronounce it. Like when I say what it means, what it means, you can decide if this is an e or an e. Mean. I think it's an e, but I'm not sure. But it's clearly a long one. Looking. I'm not sure if my u in looking is a long one or a short one. I'm not sure. Actually, in theory, it should not be a long one. So maybe that's the reason, because I wrote something and I was not sure of it because I didn't feel I was doing something long. But I thought in theory it's a double O. So in general in English, a double O means it's long. But I didn't feel like I was doing something long. And maybe that's because I just listened to English and I adapted myself to it a bit. Because in theory it should be this.
Looking.
Looking. Clearly it's a short. The first syllable is short.
Looking.
If you listen carefully. So this is not exactly U. It's in theory it's supposed to be this. So it's slightly more open than U. Looking. Yeah. Oops, sorry. Happiness. Let's just end with happiness, because we're not going to do everything because it's starting to take some time. Happiness. So clearly the first syllable is clearly stressed. So they don't consider that this is an aspirated sound. We're going to see if the Cambridge Dictionary thinks the same. Happiness. Oops. No, this. Okay, here. Okay, it's interesting. Actually, there's a big difference here. Okay, right. That's because. So. Okay, so the dictionary think that. Like, there's no notion of where the consonant ends or starts. So the Cambridge Dictionary thinks that it's happiness. So this is a vowel, a syllable by itself. But the dictionary says that the second vowel, the second syllable is a P. No, it says it's P, not P, because there is no aspiration according to the dictionary. You can check for yourself if in your own way of pronouncing it, you are aspirating the P or not. You can check for yourself. Happiness. It just one thing which you have to keep in mind is that when you stress yourself, like when you focus on your pronunciation, it can affect your pronunciation. It's just like the the Schrödinger cat and stuff. Yeah, I mean, you could make an analogy, because when you stress on pronunciation and stuff, yeah, I think it's going to affect your pronunciation, because you're going to sound awkward. You're going to correct yourself consciously or unconsciously. And I think I'm doing something similar. So so they consider that it is the a, which is this one, and penis, and this is a schwa. So in English, once again, when you don't stress a syllable, the result, especially if there are consonants around, the resulting vowel is often going to be a schwa. So a schwa is a neutral, once again, a neutral vowel. It's one that you get if you don't really do something, like if you just let your mouth loose. I don't say if you let your mouth loose, like it doesn't lose a game. I say if you let it loose. So you see, if you make a long vowel, it's going to be the words. Okay, let's delete this. So there are a lot of people who mix up these two words. This is the one that you get when loosen yourself, just don't harden. The opposite of hard, or the opposite of, sorry, the opposite of anyway. And this is the opposite of win. There is only one O, and indeed, if I think that in this one I would utter it longer, but maybe that's just hyper correction. So we're going to check what the dictionary says on this, on these two words. Lose. Okay, the dictionary does consider that even this one. So basically, the dictionary seems to consider that they are pronounced the same. Let's check what the Cambridge dictionary says. So basically, it says the same. Yeah, same point. Interesting. Okay, according to the Cambridge dictionary, the S at the end is not the same. Let's check.
Loose. Loose.
Okay, so in my own accent, I pronounce them the same. In my own French accent. And you can check for yourself if this matches your own pronunciation. Do you make an S at the end or a Z? This is not only interesting if you're an English native. It can also be interesting if you're not a native English. You can check your own English, and you can check if you're... So the difference between these two sounds is one of voiceness. This is the voiced S, and this is the voiceless one. It's the same place of articulation, which is to say alveolar, so at the top of the teeth. It's the same place of articulation, it's the same manner of articulation, it's a fricative. The only difference is in voiceness. So, se, the. So I think personally, I pronounce them the same. Lose. Okay, now, just to end on this. Okay, this was way too long. How would a French, what would be a caricatured French accent? So this is also going to be a tutorial for learning how to fake a French accent. I'm going to help you with that if you think it can be funny or stuff. So when you have an accent, it's the result of several factors, and there are some factors which are very how to say that. Like if you watch there's a recent video from Lang Focus, which is a channel that I really like from a Canadian. He tried to fake a British accent, and he talks about accents, and there are a lot of factors, and it's not all objective IPA and stuff. There's something of it which is intuitive, something that you only grasp by trying. But there is the part that you can understand. So, so the part that you can really understand for the French accent, it's so typically you have to replace the sounds that are not in French with the equivalent in French, with the closest equivalent in French. So, for instance, the H, we're going to remove them because there is no H in French, and we are not going to pronounce with the R. We don't say Arabin. So I'm not saying that it's a caricatured French accent. You can make a caricatured French accent and still have the H, but it's not necessary. The R, so there are two ways that a French will render an R. Then there is the possibility to make something like a French R, so I realized, or it can be an approximant like me, I realized, something like this. You are for, it's not the way I pronounce it spontaneously because I'm focusing, so it's getting weird. Or you can, so something that we often do is making this approximant, the were. So I realized, because this I think in a lot of cases this is going to be the way to go. So you can use this. So the same as in where, the W in where. So this doesn't matter, but I just want to remove them to give you a better idea of how the words are pronounced. It's going to be easier. There's no difference between French and English in that. There's no the E is not pronounced basically. So it does change because now with this spelling it would be live, but just I just want to like it's life, it's still life, but I just want to remove the letter that I not necessary. I'm not sure for this because I don't know if I say realized or realized. If there is a very small unstressed vowel at the end or not, I'm not sure. So the E, it's going to be E, and we don't have long vowels in French, so we are going to make only short vowels. So for the beginning, it's going to be I, because we don't have diphthongs in French, so it's going to be just the Y, because we have a Y in French, like in œil, so I have been. So a very important feature with French is that we stress on the last vowel of the phrase. So there is a big debate on whether it's the final vowel syllable, sorry, of the words or of the phrase. I think it's rather the phrase, but there's some debate. But it doesn't matter a lot. But typically for looking, we're not going to say looking. We are going to say, so it's going to be ou, lou, and then we're going to stress on the last one, and we're going to say something like looking. It can either be looking or looking. Because now we have a lot of words in French which come from English. So we are used to making these sounds because this is not a natural French sound, the ng, ng. But we do have it. So you either do this or this. For. So this is clearly this one, this O. We're going to do this way, re. So basically we are going to use re at the end of the words and we at the beginning of the words. Because it would be very weird to say for. You can't really do that. So once again, we're going to stress on the end. So happiness. So I'm putting an apostrophe here to indicate that this is the stress vowel, syllable. So this is a for again. My. All. Life. So we don't really have the as in English. It's going to be this. Just going to go to internet real quick. So it's this one. It's a sound that it's a vowel that we do have in French. And it's a front one. I, E, E, U, E, U, this I'm going to need water. I'm going to take tea after that. Maybe I'm a fake French because I am taking tea at tea time. Until. So once again, we are going to stress on the last one. Until. I. Yes, we're going to do this one. So with the W. Sorry. We. Lies. I think we need lies. This is long. This is too many consonants at the end. So for English, I'm not sure, but for French, clearly we're going to add a little schwa at the end. Realized, because we do have small unstressed schwa at the end of some words, especially if they end with an e. I. All. I think we're going to use the word version because it's not in the beginning of the words, but it's not at the end either. So all. We're going to use the closed open the closed O in French. All. Re. D, and we are going to stress on the last one. So we stress on lies, and we stress on D. Have. A. happiness, happiness. Or you can even make a schwa here. Happiness. Sorry. Je. So we do have je in French. So this is je, and it starts with a plosive de, and it ends with a fricative je. So if you have paid enough attention to what we've seen before in the last video, this is an affricate. Je. So this is once again the e is going to be the French one. So je. St. I just. So there's going to be a very short, because there's too many consonants, there's going to be a very short unstressed vowel here. Have to you. So in you, it's clearly it's either a diphthong or it's a consonant followed by a vowel. Use. Maybe there is a small schwa at the end, I'm not sure. It. Okay, so we've transcribed the whole of it. So this is going to be, I have been looking for happiness for my whole life until I realized I already have happiness. I just have to use it. Okay, once again. I have been looking for happiness for my whole life until I realized I already have happiness. I just have to use it. Okay, I'm sorry. This is not from me. This is this kind of. It's not exactly the same sentence, but it's coming from the one who know the ones who know the reference. They know it. It's you can give the source on the comments. It's from a sketch. Okay, just and the translation in French is this. J'ai cherché le bonheur toute ma vie, jusqu'à réaliser. J'ai déjà le bonheur. So in French, this is j'ai. So this is this. Chercher. So it's always the last syllable which is pronounced. I mean stressed, sorry. Chercher le. This is the real quick. This is this. E. So you could argue it's actually a schwa, but I think I really pronounce it as an E. Le. It's not perfect though. It should be this. Bonheur. Toute ma vie. Mais we're going to simplify it. Mais. So mais. J'ai déjà bonheur. So the ner is the last syllable is stressed. Here as well, the last syllable is stressed. Et déjà. Oh sorry, déjà. Déjà et est. J'ai déjà. Okay, it doesn't matter. Le. So this is either a schwa or an E. Let's say it's an E. Le bonheur. J'ai cherché le bonheur toute ma vie. Mais j'ai déjà le bonheur. Okay, and if I pronounce it with an American accent or an English accent, I'm going to adapt some sounds. So this, the R is going to be the English R. So here we're going to use yeah, the English R, so something like this. Cherche. Je cherche. So we're going to stress the first one because I think it would be more intuitive for English to stress the first one. We're going to do the same for bonheur. Yeah, it's better. And the O, we're going to make it a bit more open. Okay, we're going to use the slightly more open one. Bonheur. This is going to be, I think this is going to be this one. I'm not sure if this video is really helpful. I don't know. We're going to aspirate this T. Tout, bonheur, ma V. We can either do this or we can do a long one. J. Let's say we're going to affricate it. So it's not going to be J, it's going to be J. J. And we are also going to affricate this one. Church. We're going to affricate both one. Cherche. Okay, I don't know. You can either affricate them or not. We're going to do the same here. We are going to affricate it. I'm not going to change all the syllables. We're going to stress the first syllable here. And the E, they are going to be clearly schwa. Okay, so now we're going to make it so it's going to be something like J. I wonder if okay, I think this is going to be we are going to diphthongize it. Okay. We are going to diphthongize it and it's going to be A. Something like this. J. J'ai cherché le bonheur toute ma vie. Mais j'ai déjà. Okay, it's not very good. I think we are not going to affricate them because it's really not very nice. Okay, we are going to remove the affrication. Except here. J'ai cherché le bonheur toute ma vie. Mais j'ai déjà le bonheur. So that's the result. Okay, sorry, this one is this one. Hop. And that is accents. And you can transcribe accents with the IPA. You can so if you want to make a fake French accent, you have to stress the last syllable. And this in the IPA is going to be rendered by having an apostrophe at the end. Okay, just to finish, because this I think there's no reason to insist on all this and on my bonus and stuff. So we're going to open the internet again. These videos are really absurd. I'm completely stupid. Okay, we're going to go to internet again, and we're going. So what you can do when you make a conlang is that you can pick the sounds. So so for instance, for the vowels, this is the vowel chart, but the way you really make I think I'm going to delete the internet. The way you make it in general, the best way to do it is you remake this the chart. Okay, by the way, the reason why this is this way, it's not symmetrical, like it's not a square. The reason for this is that the more open the vowel is, the less distinction there is. Because when you have the mouth really closed and the tongue really top, it's going to be very different. For instance, whether you do a round or an unround sound, and it's the same for the tongue. The fact that the tongue is at the front or not, it really makes a big difference. So, for instance, I, U, I, U. Just visually, it's very different. But if you make the sounds which are open, the open vowels they have less distinction. All the R, they sound, sometimes they can sound the same for people. So it depends on languages. So maybe for languages, it's not there's going to be very acute distinctions here. So it also depends on the cultural, etc. background. But a priori, by itself, you tend to have more distinction here. So that is the reason why it's like this. So in general, what you will do is that you are going to pick a few vowels and you are going to place them here. And in general, what you want to have is typically to have something more or less symmetrical and with not too many vowels in the same spots. Or if there are some vowels in the same spot, you want to have a clear distinction between them. You want to have some patterns. So, for instance, there are a lot of languages that have. There are some languages that have 3 vowels typically. Like in some dialects of Arabic, there's going to be only 3 vowels. There's going to be a kind of A. There's going to be a kind of A or E. Let's say an E like this. And there's going to be a form of, let's say, O or U. And it's just going to be these 3 vowels. Something that you get in a lot of languages, including typically Japanese and Spanish, is that you are going to have an E, an A. I think it's a slightly open A, and an O, and an U. So you have 5 of them, and you can see how symmetrical it is. So you have unrounded front vowels, rounded back vowels, and a open vowel. And there's the distinction in openness here. The pattern in French is this one. In French, the pattern is that you have a distinction between 3 levels, and it's the one that I really expressed using the IPA. So I'm not saying that my descriptions of the IPA are perfectly. I'm just going to check what I show you. Okay, perfect. I'm not saying that my descriptions are perfectly like objective, because for sure my French background, is going to influence the way I like the way I understand things, and the way that like what I'm going to stress on or not stress on, it's going to be influenced by it. And you have to really be aware of that. So in French, we'll typically have this pattern with 3 different 3 levels of openness. So we have this one, so it's front and unrounded. Then we have the same but rounded, and this one. And lastly, we have rounded and back. Sorry for my writing. So E, A, A, not rounded and front, rounded and front, U, E, E, and lastly, rounded and back, U, O, O. And we have an A. This is actually this, by the way. And lastly, in French, we also have this, and we have the nasal vowels. I didn't mention nasal vowels, but nasal, it's nasalized. You can if you're interested in nasalization, you can do some additional research. It doesn't matter if you have no nasal vowels in your conlang. You just choose. It's just choose. Basically, the way you nasalize sounds, I mean vowels, is it's a bit complex, but it's something like you have to let a passage go to the nose. And it's not intuitive, but you have to try and do something like long and long. So in some languages, nasalization is typically going to be influenced by a final like this, like the ing in English, because when you have this is a sound which is pronounced at the top of the palate, and it's around this part of the palate that you make the nasalization, and that you make the something get lower so the airstream can go to the nose. So longer, and you have to insist on it, and you have to try, and I don't know how to explain it exactly, but and so you can have the So the way you transcribe a nasal vowel in the IPA is this. So you take the vowel by itself, the pure vowel, and you nasalize it. So There are dialects in French where the standard on, so it's written like this, it's going to be on. Personally, in my own variety of French, which is typically Northern Parisian French, it's and it's an o, 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 there is en as well, a, en, and there is something like this, en, un. So this is this. There are variety in French where these are two distinct nasal vowels, and this one is going to be this. It's going to be an e. So un, loin, brin. I struggle to make it because this distinction has disappeared in my own variety of French. So in my own variety of French, we only have 3 nasal vowels. But yeah, there is a pattern, basically. There is a pattern. There are 2 levels, and you see it's symmetrical. So in general, when you make a conlang, typically when you want to make a naturalistic one, you want to have some pattern in your vowel chart. And it's good to localize your vowels. It's good to have the representation of where you have your vowels. You don't necessarily need to use the symbols. You can just place little like little squares like this. And you do have to specify whether it's rounded or unrounded, and whether it's nasalized or not. And yeah, and for the consonants, you just speak just the same. So you go to the IPA, or you go to you use your own mouth. You can do whatever. You can choose your own way, and just and typically you can decide to add, like, what can be interesting is if you choose also for the vowels, you can decide if you make them long or short, or if you want to add diphthongs. And for the consonants, you can decide whether you want them voiced or voiceless, and whether you want distinction in voiceless or not, whether you want a distinction in aspiration. And you can also, you can decide to choose sounds that are not in your mother language that you can understand. For instance, I think it's not very difficult to pronounce sounds, like, since you already have bilabial consonants in English, typically, basically all languages have a bilabial consonants. So m, for instance, or p, b. And if you make and you already have fricative, for instance, s, z. So if you want, you can make this, which in standard English, as far as I know, but it can depend on your own accent. Maybe in your accent, you are going to pronounce something which is a bilabial fricative. But if you don't have it, maybe you can use it. You can decide to add a f, or you can decide to add a linguolabial, because I think it's not very difficult to pronounce linguolabial. So once again, linguo, tongue, and labial, lip. So it's the tongue against the lip. And you can decide to add them, and you are going to have a ta and da in your language. Or you can add more guttural sounds if you are able to pronounce with the throat. Things like the French re, or the glottal that I will struggle to make. But this you get something like this in Arabic languages. You try and you see if there are sounds which are intuitive to you. This will depend on your mother language. It will depend on a few other factors. And maybe there are sounds which are going to be easier for you to pronounce, which are not your mother language. So you can decide to. You have to remake a new inventory. Basically, you don't pick. So one thing which is crucial is not to pick alphabets. Is to not pick letters. When you make a phonetic inventory, if you pick letters, you are already very anchored to English. Basically, you start with an English background, a Latin background. You have to take the APA, which is basically neutral, as much as possible, I would say, basically, and you just pick a few sounds. You do have. It's better if you have some patterns. It should your APA consonant charts shouldn't be all over the place. I think you can have more chaos than with the vowels, but this video is going to be 1 hour long. I'm sorry. And what was I saying? you. Why do I make such long videos? It was supposed to be a 10 or 20 minutes video. We've just hit the 1 hour mark. Anyway, sorry, Mark. Okay, I think that was terrible. I said Mark, and I wanted to make something with it, like hi Mark. I did not make it 1 hour long. I did not. Okay, that's probably terrible. I'm just tired. I need some water because my throat is aching. Be careful with putting too much throat vowels, consonants in your language, because it might, like when you are going to pronounce your own language, you might it might really hurt if there's too much in your throat, especially if your language, mother language, doesn't have too much with the throat. Maybe your throat is not going to be prepared. It's going to really ache. I think the throat are the worst one. It's okay with most sounds, but the throat one, they can really get difficult if you have too much of them. But it can be interesting as well. It can be interesting, and it can a lot of conlangs that try to be too original, they will often add guttural sounds. Like for instance in Klingon, I think in Klingon there are several of them, if I'm not entirely wrong. And yeah, you decide what kind of sounds sound the best for you and stuff like this. Okay, I don't know if this makes a lot of sense, but yeah, that's the way you use the IPA basically. I don't know if this was a good video or not, but it was a video. And remember that you already have a penis.